Hello there, this is Brutal Bob Evans, and you're listening to the ECWF podcast.
Get the F out.
Alright, welcome to episode number 41 of the ECWF podcast. We will not get the F out, we put the F back in. I'm your host, Sean Bickey, coming to you from the Electric City, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And on this episode, I was joined by my guest, ROH's Brutal Bob Evans. And Bob is somebody I've been after for a while, and he alludes to it during the podcast. And he said the persistence paid off, so I'm glad I could do it. We talk about ROH, Mike Bennett, obviously, Cheeseburger, who he was tagging with and feuding with, and a whole bunch more. So much so that we just talked for an hour and we didn't even cover half of the stuff I wanted to. So he agreed to be on a part 2 and come back on the podcast down the road. So I'm super happy about that, and we're going to get that done sometime soon. So without further ado, here is Brutal Bob Evans. All right, back on the podcast here with ROH's Brutal Bob Evans. And Bob, you are from Massachusetts, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, growing up in Massachusetts, what part of Massachusetts?
I'm in the southeastern part of the state, Fall River area.
Okay.
Kind of closer to Rhode Island than Boston.
Oh, okay. So I'd imagine like a big Red Sox Patriots fan.
Yes, sir.
Like big sports fan in general.
Yeah, I grew up watching all those, all the sports. Probably the biggest one would be baseball, but when Parcells, I used to be a Giants fan back when I was a kid, when Parcells was there, and when he moved over to the Patriots, believe it or not, I did too.
Okay.
And so that's, so I've just stayed ever since, and it's, quite a team, so it's easy to cheer for these guys because they do so well, but,
right.
Yeah, big Sox fan, big Patriots fan, casual Celtics, casual Bruins,
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
And what are your feelings about the Brady suspension coming up?
I think he could fight it the whole time, and I think he'd eventually win. But I think, what would he win, really? I mean, it's just I have a feeling that the Players Association is going to go after him, and I read a few articles about it saying that by kind of leaving it in the Players Association's hands, he's actually going to reduce a lot of Goodell's powers, and it seems like now it's just a personal, peeing contest between these two guys. So
yeah,
and I think he's really trying to stick it to Goodell. So he's going to serve the suspension and then, reduce his power that way, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
It's one of those things that just won't go away. I thought we were done with it last year when he fought it, and like you said, he won, and then it got overturned, and then all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere again, like, oh, they're reinstating it or something, and then he's just like at this point probably throwing his hands up like, oh, whatever, like I don't care.
Right.
But I don't follow baseball as much. Like I'm a huge Giants fan, and you pulled at my heart a little bit when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
But how are the Sox doing this year?
They're doing all right. David Price can't really seem to get it together, but there's been some promise there. But I mean, they've been hitting the cover off the ball, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And they're in contention. I feel good about it, as long as the starting pitching holds up, and the relief corps has been the biggest thing.
Nice.
So.
All right. I guess we have to talk about wrestling because it is a wrestling podcast, but
sure.
I could sit here and talk sports all day. So what was it like growing up in that area, though? Like as a little kid, like was it mom, dad, brother, sister?
Yeah, I have one brother who's older, 3 years older than me. And, my mom was a librarian, my dad was a teacher. Both pretty legendary. My mom pretty much built the Somerset, Mass. Library from scratch. Not with her bare hands, but she started it when it was there. And
right.
She's kind of, got stuff named for her in the library and stuff. And my dad's like one of those, change your life Mr. Holland, English teachers that they do movies about. So very pivotal in his students' lives. So
Oh, nice.
that's probably where I get it from. So
Yeah, the teaching aspect of it, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And you mentioned an older brother. Is he a wrestling fan, or was he a wrestling fan growing up?
no, nobody in my family was really a wrestling fan.
Oh, wow.
In fact, my parents were sort of discouraging me from watching it. Not really, but they just wanted to make it clear that it was entertainment and all that, and that part never bothered me, even when I was found out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you know, it was an interesting situation because a lot of my friends at school, because I grew up watching it right when it hit big with Piper and Hogan and all that, so
Okay.
it was you know, basically like the Attitude Era before the Attitude Era, where a bunch of people were into it. You know, it was cool to like wrestling. It wasn't stupid or anything. So, but I just stuck with it all the way through junior high and high school and all that. So, you know, kind of when it was still very popular, but kind of when it was kind of a little bit passe or more for kids.
Right.
I still liked it, and that's when I kind of got a little bit of a hard time. I didn't get teased too much. You know, it's most of the people that tease me about it kind of playfully in high school, they're, you know, either fans or are just happy for my success. So I didn't get, you know, it wasn't that much of a stigma back then. It was, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so
Was
that's how that went.
Mom and Dad would discourage you kind of, but did they ever take you to any events or anything like that?
The first event I went to was 1986 in Providence. It was actually the one Mick Foley writes about in his book, where the Bulldogs kind of roughed him up.
Oh yeah.
Smashed his teeth in. So that was my first wrestling experience at the Providence Civic Center, now Dunkin' Donuts Center.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. It was one of those long TV tapings where they taped 3-4 weeks of TV, and Hogan and Orndorff at the end, and just a good crazy match, and sold out and the whole thing, and it was really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Now, I saw a picture you posted or you had up on your page there. A picture of you with Junkyard Dog. I think you were like 17. It said.
Yeah, that was. Let me see. That was March of 1990. It was the first independent show I ever went to, and he was the first celebrity that I met close up. I was a senior in high school, and you know, just got my license. And me and my buddy Joe Oliveira, my best friend from high school, we used to go to all the, you know, as many of the local shows as we could. I mean, there weren't that many back then. They were more like sold shows in high schools and stuff. So, you know, you might hit a Kowalski event, or you might hit a Tony Rumble event, ICW or something like that. And see guys, Chris Duffy and Phil Apollo and, you know, Bill Wilcox starting out, and Freight Train Fulton, and these guys who actually ended up wrestling some of those guys later on. So it was kind of cool. But
Oh yeah, definitely. That's cool.
but yeah, that's where I actually had my first experience. And I remember Taz was on that show. Bill DeMott wrestling as Big Sweet William was on that show. Damien Demento wrestling as Mondo Clean wrestled Johnny Rods in the main event. So actually JYD was in the main event, and but I know Mondo Clean and the other guy, you know, Johnny Rods were there. So
yeah, nice. That's
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Did you ever play any other sports growing up?
Yeah, I lettered in baseball and basketball in high school. I wasn't a fantastic player. I just, you know, got the coach's award, which was kind of like for the scrappy guy who hung around and stuff. So you know, similar to wrestling, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was I did, you know, I was a pretty fair pitcher until I was about 16 or 17, and played Legion ball until I was 18. But kind of had already had my eyes on working and girls and the whole thing, so the baseball thing kind of wore out. So I had a chance to play at UMass Dartmouth. I tried out for the team, but the coach sat me down and said, "You're going to be the 25th guy, and you're never going to play. But I like you, so I might, you know, I'll keep you on if you want me to." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that," and I shook his hand and said, "Thank you very much, but I'm going to go Yeah, retired baseball player now. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was that. So,
Was there any aspirations of ever entering the education system?
no, I've been. My parents have been on me for that. The whole teaching thing. When I went to college, I went for business management, and
Oh, okay.
I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. So, and I kind of saw how they gave my dad the shaft sometimes, and he came home tired, and my dad like went above and beyond. They talk about them having summers off and all that, but I mean, he would work 60, 70 hours a week. He'd do a bunch of extra stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and just put in a lot of effort and not necessarily, it wasn't a compensation issue, but there wasn't a lot of appreciation, so,
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
yeah,
that's a hard job. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, and some teachers do, I see both sides of it. Some teachers do take advantage of the system and are lazy, and I'm lucky that the town we're in now, Swansea, Mass, is we're blessed with a good system of teachers and really no nonsense. I mean, we've had excellent. My son's special needs too, so we've had excellent special needs program, excellent regular program for my daughter, and all that. So I
Mm.
haven't seen it, but I mean, I've heard some horror stories from some other people, like teachers being lazy and not really doing their job, and
Right.
nothing you can do to get rid of them, which stinks, So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I saw that, and I just didn't really want to put the. And at the time, when I was a young guy, I just didn't think I'd have the patience to teach, So,
Yeah,
and
that's a
that's
big part of it.
ends up kind of disproving that theory later on in life, but at the time, that's the deal. So.
Yeah. Now, is mom and dad still with us?
Oh yeah, yep,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Both
cool.
retired, just doing the grandparent thing, and they volunteer at church, and they stay real busy, and they have their things that they do, and they see the kids, once a week, twice a week, and so yeah, they're getting along. They're in their 70s now, but they're doing great. So
Awesome. That's awesome.
yes,
Um.
sir.
Okay. Was there any certain moment or a person that inspired you to want to become a professional wrestler?
I'll tell you the moment, and this is the story I tell in all my seminars, and it's true. I mean, it's not a phony story, but it's just people have probably heard it before. But it was actually a flashback match. It wasn't a live match, and I didn't. It was from probably 1981. I'm pretty sure it's 1981. But I was watching it in 1984. It was like a best of WWF show or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed the Strongbos wrestling Mr. Fuji and Mr. Saito for the TV titles, and they were at that TV arena that used to be in Hamburg, which probably, I think I've actually wrestled there before, and it holds probably it's like a big high school gym, but probably holds about 1,500 people, maybe 2,000. And I just remember that they had the baby faces, the Strongbos won the belts.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember this one, like probably about I'd say teenage boy, 12, 13, 14, with these plaid pants, because that was the fashion of the day. But I remember he was jumping up and like joyous, just jumping about 5 feet in the air, just going crazy. And I looked at that and I said, I've never seen anyone react like that in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this? And now I didn't put all this together when I was
Right.
11,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
mean, I just said, like what? How is that reaction happening with a young guy? Like that young guy is like just losing his mind. Like what? And I'm kind of subconsciously asking myself, what's the emotional attachment there, where he feels such joy that somebody, these two guys, they're kind of like, I mean, back then it wasn't a body business, but I mean, they weren't overly attractive guys, and it wasn't anything, it wasn't like they looked like movie stars or anything. So what was the magnetism,
Right.
And that just it intrigued me. So I just started watching the rest of the show that day, and then they said, "Oh, we'll take you to some current action now after that best of match," and it was whatever they were, Hogan and Piper and all these guys, and
Mm-hmm.
these just larger than life personalities, and it was crazy.
Yeah. You were hooked.
I was hooked, and I watched it as much as I could. Back then, it was only on once a week, twice a week, and then when I was good and school vacations and whatnot, I could stay up and watch primetime wrestling, which had just started,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched that, and just started watching everything and taping it and watching it again, and I really liked it. It was excuse me, one day.
I gotcha.
But it was just, I don't know. It was just all these characters and all this. I had never seen something like this in sports. It was outrageous to me, and it was really. I didn't have a lot of outrageous things in my life. I was kind of a, middle class kid in a small town. Not a lot of, not a lot of color to it. We didn't have. We had one black kid in town. We didn't have a lot of Spanish kids. Like we didn't have any color to our town, and I mean that in the best possible way.
No, yeah.
We had a lot of Portuguese kids, but they were all pretty much assimilated, and they were very much Americanized. So it wasn't, we didn't have a lot of garish outfits or nothing,
Yeah.
So it was almost like a weird kind of pop culture thing to me, because I didn't listen to a lot of music. I didn't listen to a lot of, I wasn't really into MTV and all that. I mean, I would keep up with it a little bit, but just to stay current at school and stuff, have something to talk about. But really, the wrestling was the thing that was really my link to pop culture.
Yeah, especially back then too, with the rock and wrestling they had, and
oh sure, and Cyndi Lauper and the whole thing. I mean, it was huge. It was really big, man. It was.
Like you said, the Attitude Era before the Attitude Era.
It was. I mean, everybody was. And I think if they had a deeper cable penetration, it would have been bigger than the Attitude Era at the time. So, I think cable TV was kind of in its infancy back then, and it would have been interesting to see if they were as advanced as they were in '84 as they were in '97, '98. How that would have played out, but because I think it would have been an even bigger era. But
yeah, definitely, I agree.
So I view myself as kind of a bridge because I grew up as a fan in the '80s, and then I became a wrestler and was a young veteran wrestler in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an interesting time. So.
Yeah, because you've been doing it now 20 plus years, and you started
25 years in February, brother.
Wow, that is crazy, man. And you started 91, 92 or something?
I started in 92. I started at 19. I'll be 44 in September.
Nice.
So I started. We were doing backyard wrestling. I was one of the first guys to put backyard wrestling on public access.
Oh, okay.
And because this is the next question you're going to ask me, so I'll answer it for you. But there was a kind of a semi-pro group. They were real young and real green guys, but they meant well, and I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. But one of the guys saw me, and we had a number for our public access service that said, "Hey, if you want to wrestle with us, give us a call." I had a business line in my house for this stuff.
Nice.
So seriously, I took it,
Yeah.
So the guy called me and he said, "Hey, I said you seem to be real into this wrestling, real passionate about it. Would you want to take it to the next level? We're pro wrestling, and they were very low level pro wrestling. But at the time, there was Kowalski's and nothing, and this was in New Bedford, Mass, 15 minutes from my house. So I said, yeah, I'd love to give it a shot. So me and another guy went, and he went to one practice, blew out his knee, and was never heard from him again. And in wrestling, we still hear from him in life.
Right.
But yeah, I've been there ever since.
Cool.
So February 12th, 92, I think was my first practice.
Wow.
So,
all right, you mentioned the backyard thing. I have to ask, what was the promotion called?
It was called Power League Wrestling. It actually still exists in some form as a fundraising professional wrestling organization. I gave it to a couple of friends of mine when I kind of moved on, gave the name to them, and they've turned it into a nice little thing where they go and they do charity events for people, and it's a mix of high-level guys, low-level guys who just do it for fun. But it's always for a good cause, and they've done a lot of good things with it. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, so it still exists. It's actually technically one of the longest New England-based promotions in going on today. It's probably 24, 25 years now. So.
Okay. And what was your backyard name?
Brutal Bob Evans.
Oh, still, yeah.
Yeah, I kept it.
Did you ever wrestle under a different name?
When I started for Yankee Pro Wrestling, or Top Rope Promotions as it is now, and that was the group that reached out to me, I was an Undertaker ripoff, and it was my idea, so I can't even blame him.
Okay.
Called the Peacekeeper, and I was like the Undertaker looking guy, because I looked a decent amount like him now. I looked even more like him back when I had hair, and I just was the Undertaker in blue. I just had a navy blue, outfit, you know. So we were all kind of like rip-offs back then.
Right.
We didn't know anything about our own identity and all that.
Yeah, nice. Okay,
So
so
I did like the cowboy thing, and it was kind of my idea. So like I said, I really can't. I really
yeah,
can't
can't knock
pick
it.
on the guys.
Yeah.
But pretty much like I'd say 6 or 8 months in, I had switched over to Brutal Bob, and aside from like a show or two where I might do something else, and I can't even remember what the names were.
Okay.
I've been Brutal Bob
So
my whole career.
where does the nickname Brutal come from?
As far as I remember, and I'm kind of fuzzy on this. I wanted a name that was kind of. I always thought the name Bulldog Bob Brower was cool, and Bulldog Bob Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to be like a bulldog because I didn't really feel like that was me. But and nobody was using Brutal, so I just used that. And and I don't think a couple people use it now, but back then nobody used it. And I kind of wanted a name that would, use the alliteration with my first name at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. I actually toyed with changing my last name to a B name, but I could never think of anything that would be any good. So I just kept in the Bob Evans thing, and I just made it Brutal Bob Evans, and it stuck,
Yeah.
So
I'd say so.
You can use it either as like a mean thing, or it can be kind of ironic. You know what I mean? Because I'm a nice guy, so you can either use it as like a vicious heel or like a nice guy, and it's kind of an ironic title. So
Yeah.
it works on 2 levels.
Okay, how did the hang with Bob? How did that start?
That was like that actually happened this year. That's it's kind of a funny thing. It's I was waiting for my kids in the winter, and I sit outside about 5 minutes before they come down the street, and I was just sitting on my porch, and I had kind of been reflecting on the year that 2015 was, and I had just started taking a bunch of pictures in probably 2014. Because I'm probably on the end of it more than the beginning of it as far as the career goes, and I've regretted not taking pictures with some people in the past, And I just started taking pictures, and we used to make fun of a lot of the wrestlers. Oh, you're a mark, you're taking a picture with a guy and all that, but it really was like, but these are people I work with. Like, you go to Ring of Honor, and there's a bunch of New Japan guys here. You're on the same show with them. You're working with them. I mean, you're not a fan in the back bugging them. So I just looked at it as, hey, this is, a super big megastar that I had the honor and fortune of being in the same locker room with and calling him a peer for the day. So I'm going to take a picture with him, damn it. And I mean, there were guys that I had known for years, Steve Carino, Christopher Daniels. Like, I've known these guys 20 years, or at least known of them for 20 years, and I didn't have pictures with them. And I said, this is stupid, And of course, if I'm going to take a picture with Steve, I'm going to take a picture with Colby, because Steve and Colby are like family to me, so I'm taking a picture with Colby too.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when I met Jushin Liger, Jushin Liger was the first Japanese wrestler I ever saw. So, and this is back like when he first had the mask, and I got to tell him, hey man, I'm not anything like you at all, but you were one of the guys that inspired me to wrestle, and it was actually an emotional moment for me. I got to shake his hand and give him a hug, and hey, can I take a picture with you? It'll mean a lot to me. And he was honored by it. None of these guys are jerks,
Mm-hmm.
So I just, and I took a picture with Nakamura because Nakamura's freaking awesome, and I took a picture with Okada because Okada's awesome.
Yep.
And I knew, and these are $1 million guys, so and Tanahashi, like the big 3 in Japan, they're in your locker room, they're working the same show as you, and you're not going to take a picture with them? You're crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, they're used to taking pictures. I mean, the Japanese culture is all about recording things with photos, so it's not like they're, offended by it or anything like that. And, just taking pictures with some of the other guys, Frankie Kazarian, who I've known for a long time, and Frankie and I are from the same kind of Kowalski lineage. Frankie is a direct descendant of a Kowalski student, and my trainer, Jeff Costa, was one of Killer Kowalski's first 5 original students. So, and Killer Kowalski always liked my work, so I was happy about that because he hated everybody who wasn't in the school. So, so I'm taking pictures with the guy. I'm taking pictures with the Young Bucks because, the Young Bucks inspired me to, make more of a business out of wrestling. That kind of a thing. So, but I was looking at I was reflecting at all these pictures I took, and I just, as a joke, I just thought, and everybody had like awesome years. Like all these guys were going to, like, took a picture of Samoa Joe. Like all these guys are going to NXT. All these guys are winning big titles. All these guys are this and that, right? So I just started taking credit for it as a joke. I said, hangs with Bob and goes to NXT, and hangs with Bob and, I wish I had gotten one with AJ. I kept forgetting to get one with AJ.
Yeah.
Like I could have just taken credit for AJ too. Like it was a joke though. It was
Right,
completely
right.
tongue in cheek and a completely like sarcastic thing, and everybody was kind of in on it.
Nice.
And then somebody was like, "Hey, that's kind of catchy. Like Hanks and Bob gets better." And then my buddy Richard Fonseca, I said, "Hey, can you do a T-shirt design just to see what it looks like?" And then he sent me like 9 awesome T-shirt designs, and the one that I use now, which is the picture of me with the 2 silhouettes of a man and a woman, that's the one I like the best. And I mean that shirt's selling like crazy, and it's kind of me because I took that, and instead of taking credit for everybody's career, I kind of used that as a title for my seminars because I try to be like the anti-wrestling seminar guy. In other words, a lot of wrestling seminars, they're yelling at you for stuff you don't know, and kind of bitching about the business and all that stuff. And I think that it should be a lot more productive where we say a lot of positive things. That doesn't mean we don't critique people. It doesn't mean we're not hard on people when we have to be. But I understand how hard it is to be a young guy in wrestling and not know everything. I know how hard that is. So if I can just be a little bit more kinder and gentler, I'll do it. I'm firm when I have to be, but I'm just not gonna start yelling at guys because they don't know stuff.
Yeah.
So it's so I've just kind of used that and tried to say, hey, hang with me and you get better. And then I usually teach them like a lesson real quick in like 15 or 20 minutes where I go, see, you've already hung with me and you've already gotten better. And then when I bring up a lot of what I do now, a lot of what my talk is that we talk about how to monetize and make money in wrestling. And even as an independent wrestler, you can make an okay, second income or even a living at it if you really hustle. But this business favors hustle. You have to hustle. And a lot of guys don't know how to do that. A lot of guys don't know how to do that at all. So a lot of what I do is telling them, just do this, this, and this, and it's easy to make money. You're not going to make $1 million in a day, but it's not too hard to like triple or quadruple your income in a very short amount of time. Now, sometimes we're talking about turning $10 into 50, but I'd much rather go home with 50 than 10. So, and sometimes I'm talking about turning 100 into 500. So, I mean, it really does. It's the same multiples and the same principles.
Yeah,
So,
I noticed over the past few weeks you've been dropping some knowledge like on Facebook and posting some stuff like similar to what you were just saying and kind of like the business of wrestling and like making a living from it. And I saw the one you posted about making 500K. And you kind of just answered the question, but maybe I'll ask in a different way. Like, what was the inspiration behind like that stuff? Was that like just a years of experience or like? You could, like,
I'll tell you exactly what happened. I had, for some reason, I had never been secure enough to have my own real T-shirt designs or anything. And then I said, hey, I think I can make a go of this. And I started talking to some of the guys around here, Teddy Goods, Vinny Marcellia, TK O'Ryan. I'm talking to these guys, and they're like, you should totally sell a shirt. I think people would go crazy for a shirt because you never have had one. And, and by the way, I got paid $50 on a show, but I made $300 in merchandise. And it blew me away. I said, you're crazy. Get out of here. He said, no, I did. I sold whatever, 10 shirts and 20 pictures, $300.
yeah.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I said, no offense, but you're nobody. And he goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, wow. And then I sat down and I was sitting next to my friend Vinny Marcellia, who has the Insanity brand, which is a fantastic deal. And Vinny is very popular in the area. He's one of the best wrestlers in New England and in the country, in my opinion, who hasn't been signed yet. And he will be soon enough by somebody. But Vinny has that Insanity shirt, and it's all about tattoos and all that because Vinny's a big tattoo guy. And Vinny made $160 in 15 minutes. And then he made $300 for the night. And there's people wearing Vinny stuff, walking up, buying more Vinny stuff.
Right.
And I said, holy cow. I said, now I have 2 examples. And then there were like 2 or 3 other examples where guys were just, maybe not 300, but 100, 75, 100, 200, 150, 180, 210, and they're making real money on the independents. There's a lot of hardworking people that don't make $300 in a week. So,
Amen.
and these guys are making it, doing something super fun and meeting the fans and getting to wrestle and, and so I looked at this and I said, holy cow, you can build a little business out of this. Now, the $500,000 thing came out of, I said, the difference between the $500,000 guys and the nothing guys is just how they invest their money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just classic, take a little bit of your money every week and put it in a mutual fund, put it in a good, smart investment. But a guy that I didn't know, and for some reason it was just somebody that I didn't know at all, he came on and he accused me of being a con man who's teasing people to come to my seminar so I can give him this $500,000 advice.
Oh my God.
And I was very offended by that. And I said, okay, well, I'll solve that problem. Here you go. Here it is for free. And I just gave it to everybody for free because I'm not afraid of giving away information. First of all, it's information that you, me, or anyone else could have found in a book. You just take wrestling out of it and take a pizza job out of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted guys to have, we injure ourselves so much and we go through so much and we go through so much of this, the relationship stuff, and we go through so much of the stress and trying to juggle our jobs, and we try to do this, and then, sometimes the family and the wife doesn't realize it, and they think it's, they just think it's Sunday softball, and we're a bunch of fat guys fooling around.
Right.
We're not really getting anything out of it. So my whole thing is, look, if you put $10,000 in the bank and leave it alone for 20 years, it's $46,000. And I mean, that isn't all the money in the world, but $46,000 is something to show for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing was have something to show for wrestling. And, it's good to have pictures and photo albums and scrapbooks and videos. And I met this guy, I met that guy, I traveled the world. But if you're penniless and you just spend a lot of time away from home and you have nothing to show, then that's not good. I mean, $500,000 in 20 years might be able to get your kid through college, but at least to get your kid through college.
Yeah.
And now wrestling paid for something, and now you didn't do it for nothing. Or you didn't do it selfishly just for you. You did it for someone else. My whole thing was you can easily make $20,000 a year in wrestling if you bust your ass. And that's pretty much a nobody guy. If you bust your ass and make sacrifices and watch your expenses on the road and you monetize as much as you can make $20,000. And you invest that over 11 years in a good mutual fund, making 8%, and the market's been at 10, so you'd actually be below the market on a lot of stuff. So if you can make 8, that's $511,000 in 11 years.
Wow.
You have to add 20. You have to add 20 to it every year.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do that, and that doesn't take into account that if you're good enough where you're making $20,000 a year, you're going to be wrestling 100 times a year, maybe 110 times a year, 150 times a year. So you'll be almost a regular guy. You'll develop a following, and you'll probably be picked up by a big office, and you'll probably make that money a lot faster because you might make $500,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have 600-700 matches under your belt, and you know exactly who you are, you're going to be a star.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll make $100,000 in WWE. You'll make $200,000-300,000 in Ring of Honor, TNA, the Independents, whatever, a combination of all three. Japan. I mean,
yeah.
The Young Bucks, Kevin Steen, Cole Cabana, all these guys kind of opened my eyes to it, and then the local guys, the guys that I helped wrestling-wise, kind of turned around and taught me this lesson about marketing and hustle and all this. And I've seen it. I've seen it. This last 6 months has been ridiculous. I mean, I've made, without getting into numbers, but I mean, you're talking 10 times the income I've made in, any year in my life.
Wow.
And I mean, granted, I've only done it part-time and I've kind of never really run with it, but I kind of feel like I've stepped on something here that can be really good for everybody. And I think if everybody kind of ups their game and does the hustle, then I think it's going to just mean better shows and better everything for everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited about it, and but it all came from that. It all came from me fooling around on my porch waiting for the kids, and then the seminar stuff, the business end of it, just kind of came with me observing the guys and figuring out why they are coming home with more money than me, and I'm quote unquote the big name.
Right. Bob, have you ever thought about writing a book?
You're the 27th person who brought that up to me. Actually, I had a long talk with a buddy of mine who's written a book before, and he gave me some real good inroads to it. And yeah, I'm definitely I have a few books in me.
Because
So
you just
I don't want to
yeah
do.
you
I
just
don't.
laid a chapter right there.
Yeah, that's basically what he said too. So I just yelled at him for an hour, and then he's like, "Well, half the book's done. I wish we had taped it." And I said, "Well, that's all right. I've forgotten all of it. Just." And I'm so passionate about it because I just care so much for the guys, and I've, a lot of the veterans that really they talk about all the disrespectful guys, and I've met very few disrespectful guys. I've met a lot of good young people, a lot of good men and women that are really just trying to do something with this and really trying to just justify their existence in the wrestling world. And unfortunately, there's not that many national jobs. But what I'm saying is you can hustle and make an okay living at this. Are you going to make $780,000 a year? No, I don't think so. I mean, who knows? But you could make 10, 15, 20, 30,000, and that's not bad. I mean, that's a good side job, and that's, you get lucky and you can turn that into 50 or 60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the top independent guys are making that. And I mean, the way I look at it is, you gotta, when NXT or TNA or even my own company, Ring of Honor, come to you. See, Ring of Honor is still a little different as is TNA because they allow you to still do independence for the most part.
Right.
But I mean, so let's use NXT as an example. So NXT sits down with you. Well, it's not automatic to jump to NXT anymore because you're making a good living and you're home most of the time and you wouldn't have to move. See, that's the thing with NXT. I mean, you have to move to Florida. You have to kind of assimilate into the thing, and I think my whole thing is that these guys, Kevin and the Bucks and all that. Hey, maybe they'll all end up in WWE someday. I mean, Kevin's already there, but I mean, they've cracked the code. So let's just run with that and do our version of that. Even if you think the Young Bucks stink and Colt's this and Kevin Steen's this, and you hate all four of them. I personally don't. But I mean, if you just can't stand anything that they do and they ruin the business and this and that, fine. We'll just take what they did to get noticed and take what they did to market themselves and do your version of that. Mm-hmm. That's basically what I'm telling guys. Yeah. Because everybody is marketable to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't see how anybody could hate any of those guys because I've never met the Young Bucks or Kevin Steen, but I have met Colt Cabana before, and he's one of those people that, like, the expectation, like, lives up to the hype, I guess I would say.
Yeah, Colt's a hard-working guy, and he's a tremendous professional wrestler, and the podcast thing, and, he got in early in the Pro Wrestling Tees thing, and, I mean, and Kevin always wanted to be a top-tier wrestler, and he is. Mm-hmm. And he's shattered some myths about bigger guys.
Absolutely.
And the Bucks, I mean, I don't think we have to. If you meet the Bucks, I think you'll kind of realize that maybe everything they put on Twitter isn't exactly the truth. So, mm-hmm. I mean, they do stuff to entertain.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And then if somebody, Jim Cornette, and I love Jim Cornette. Don't get me wrong, I love Jimmy. But if Jim comes out and he knocks them, then they just run with it. They use it to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's just what they do, and all it does is build their fan base.
Yeah.
And they have a very loyal fan base. If they put out a piece of merchandise, their fan base will buy it.
Yep.
And they are the most over guys at Ring of Honor, aside from maybe Jay Lethal and a few other guys. But I mean, they're just so popular.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is crazy. I mean,
very, and they're not getting any younger, and they're not old guys by any means, but they're the road is catching up to them.
Right.
So they're getting a little smarter with their wrestling, which is what all of us told them to do a few years ago.
Right.
And injuries have kind of made that, so they actually do a lot less than you think they do. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
they have to keep that perception where the reality is a little different, which is good for them because they're good young guys with nice pretty wives and nice kids at home, and I want to have great lives. I'm a big young Bucks guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, how can you not be? Like, they're just on a whole different level. But I want to talk about ROH, where your home base is, I guess you would say. Let's see. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you broke in with your guy Mike Bennett and like you have a history with him, obviously, and Maria and Sarah Del Rey when she was there. You want to just tell that story about how you kind of got to ROH? I was asking you about ROH and breaking in and stuff like that with Mike Bennett and them.
Yes.
So if you could go ahead, we'll
Yeah, it
take.
was, let's see, well, Mike and I both got pretty much, we both had dark matches before, but hadn't gotten looked at. Mike was looked at more serious than me because he looks like Mike Bennett. So, I was kind of big on my daughter at the time. I resented him for not seeing what it had to offer, but I was also like 280 pounds and kind of, like I said, bitter. I was, nice in the locker room, but I kind of used to be one of the guys that kind of pissed on Ring of Honor. I didn't really respect it as much as I should have, obviously. And so what we did is I kind of rededicated myself, and I said, look, if I want to be in this company, I have to respect all the guys in it, and I have to respect the process, and I have to respect everything, the guys that have come before me. I can't look at them as something less than or anything like that. I basically have to be coming to me again. So what I did was I lost, I got into an exercise program. I lost 40 pounds. I came in at 240. And then I did their first tryout camp in seminar. And Mike and I did the same one. And we were the two best guys. And did a couple of dark matches, but still nothing. Didn't really excel in those. And then Jim Cornette said, what do you think about being a manager for Mike? I want to finally bring Mike in. And I said, well, I was more interested in wrestling. And he's like, well, I don't see you. And this is Jim's friend of mine. And Jim said, I don't really see you wrestling in a company because I don't think your style fits Ring of Honor right now. And he said, but I want you to be a manager. I want you to be a part of the team. And, it kind of hurt my feelings at the time. I certainly wasn't offended. I was offended, but I wasn't mad at Jim,
Right.
But I also knew that if I didn't say yes, they'd either bring Mike in on his own or just have somebody else do it, and I wouldn't have any chance. Mm-hmm. So I came in, the money wasn't great at the time because Kerry Silken was struggling keeping the company going, but it wasn't really about that anyway for me. And we just, we started the company in October of 2010, and Mike's first TV shot was a 7.5-minute live promo in the 2300 arena. Mm-hmm. So I still contend that it was the hardest debut that I've ever seen. Because Jericho, The Rock, none of these guys had to talk for that long without someone else jumping in.
Yeah, wow, yeah,
so,
that's impressive.
Yeah, so and it was. He carried it really well at the time. And it was a little bit rough going for us in the beginning. I think some guys resented Mike being in the company because he was a big, handsome, muscular, pretty boy-looking guy. Mm-hmm. But he earned their respect pretty quick because he's a super nice person, very, very, very respectful, very nice guy. I've known Mike Bennett since he was 16 and a half. Nothing's changed. He's still the same guy, and he's 30 now. So, but he was a fantastic person, a very hard worker, a good wrestler. Mm-hmm. And he earned their respect, slow and steady. Just, wrestled him every night and did a good job with him. And they were like, hey, this guy, there's more to this guy than just a body and a nice smile. He actually can go. Right. And in Ring of Honor, that's important. They don't mind characters, but they kind of, if you can't go, then they're not. Ring of Honor, there is a certain style and there is a certain intensity to the work. And if you can't hang, then they're not. They kind of lose faith in you.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And so, you mentioned knowing him for so long now. Like, what has it been like to watch him, like his development over time?
It's been great. Like I said, we've had maybe 2 hiccups in the 14 years that we've known each other, and it was kind of dumb and kind of mended our fences real quick there both times over stupid stuff, and that's been it. It's been great. People ask me all the time, like, hey, were you mad when Maria came? And I said, no, Maria's perfect. She's a female version of Mike as far as attitude and being a really good-looking person that's really down to earth and cool. In fact, I saw her today because we work out at the same gym. But she's a super cool person, and I fell in love with her with the first road trip we went on, and he was real tired, and he fell asleep in the back, and she and I just chatted for 5 hours straight, and I just was like, this girl's great. I really hope, this is very early in their relationship, and I said, boy, I really hope, he keeps her around.
Well,
And she's been really good for him. She's helped him stand up for himself in business, and she's very smart and, navigated the WWE waters for a long time,
right.
and is not anything like the airhead she portrayed on TV. She's a very intelligent woman. And, she's great, and I'm so glad she came into his life. And now they're married and happy, and then in a few years, when everything settles down, they're going to have tremendously good-looking children, and that's about it. So, but yeah, no, he's doing great. He's doing great in TNA. He's doing great,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's been great seeing his progress. I'm super happy for him. I really hope that TNA has faith enough in him and goes all the way with him and makes him their world champion. I think he'd be a tremendous representative to
I agree.
carry the world title. I think he can. I think him and EC3, who I'm also a big fan of. I think they were doing, and I know this is putting them in big company, but I think a few months ago they were doing Rock and Stone Cold like mic work, and unfortunately, not as many people were seeing it. I mean, they were doing just super high level stuff.
Yeah.
And really just bringing each other's game up, which is exactly what you want. And it was unfortunate that not a lot of people saw it, but it's still good for them to have that out there and have proof that they can deliver the message when they have to.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Mike's doing great, and it's funny seeing him because now he actually is part of wrestling school now in Providence, and he trains guys, and it's cool seeing him he's obviously not a clone of me at all. He's has different influences from all over the place, but it's funny when sometimes I hear him say, Bob said this, or there's an echo of something that I said. It's kind of neat seeing the next generation of guys kind of handing that down. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're all for guys getting and making the best of every opportunity, but was it a little hard for you to see him go?
It's always hard to see him go because, and it was I really would have liked to share his final moment in Ring of Honor, but we had kind of a situation where the aforementioned Vinny Marcellia of Insanity fame had dislocated his shoulder the first match with Leo Rush in Philadelphia, the last day that Mike was there, and he and I spent 4 hours in the emergency room because there was no one else to take him, and Vinny's one of my best friends, so
right.
no problem there. So we got Vinny all fixed up, and then we drive back to the building, and Mike's pretty much wrapping up his goodbye speech to everyone in the locker room. So,
oh man,
but it's fine. I mean, he's always nice to shout me out on Facebook, and always has a nice message. And once every couple of months, I'll get a message that says, hey, I appreciate you and everything that you do, and he's just that kind of a guy. So he's never forgotten where he came from, and that goes for a lot of people. I mean, I'm glad to say I'm one of the guys who trained him, but I mean, he's got mentors from all over the place, and is very grateful for everything that's been handed to him. He's not a hard guy to deal with and a hard guy to work with for sure. So
yeah, that's cool to hear. That's very cool. Another guy that you have a history with there, Cheeseburger.
Yes.
You did. There was just the tag team for I think it was 18 months maybe. Brutal Burgers, and then you ended up turning on him. And my question was it originally the program originally supposed to go that long, or was it something that just grew over time, or?
Well, as most things do in wrestling, with me in Ring of Honor, it started as a rib. Well, it sort of started as a rib, let me tell you, and I'm not going to name names because I have a lot of respect for everybody involved.
Right, yeah,
it was a person having a bad day. So it was one of the first times I met Cheeseburger, and I see this little black guy, and he's about 100 pounds, and they call him Cheeseburger. I go, why do you call him Cheeseburger? And they go, because he needs to eat one. And I go, okay, that makes sense. And I just see this kid kind of helping out at shows, and I didn't even really know he was a trainee. I didn't know anything about him. I said, he's a trainee? It's pretty much what everybody says. But he, was a really hard-working guy at the shows, and then I saw him at one of the Ring of Honor tryout camps and seminars, and he just came to take the seminar, as all students are invited to do at the time. And he was real green and real rough around the edges, and he worked with one of the Ring of Honor guys. And I guess, the Ring of Honor guy had a different way of teaching him, so he kind of had a match with him and kind of roughed him up a little bit. And I personally thought it was a little over the line. I don't believe in beating guys up when they're giving you your body. He didn't beat him up, but he kind of roughed him up a bit. And, I kind of had a hair across my ass about it, and it was a 2-day camp. So I said, well, that was Saturday, and I said, hey, Sunday, can I team with that kid? And they're like, huh? I said, yeah, can I team with that kid? And at the time, he was doing his Leech Lambda thing, which was a mask thing, like a Chikara kind of looking gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, put us with 2 heels. And I said, okay. So we did some inventive stuff. I really went out of my way to, say, I'm going to make this kid look like $1 million. And I didn't know he was, going to become, Delirious's right-hand guy. I didn't know any of that stuff at the time. I'm just seeing a kid who was busting his hump and deserved a shot, and I felt like he didn't get a square deal the day before. So I'm like, I'm going to go overboard and make him look like $1 million.
Right.
And we did. And they laughed about it, and then we didn't think anything of it. Just kept seeing him at shows, later on, and 6 months later, there was a spot left, and I said, hey, why don't I team with Burger again? And they're like, oh, Brutal Burgers, ha, ha, ha. And I said, and then we did it again, and it went, kind of decent.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Kelly, who's one of my best friends and one of the smartest guys I know, said, I think there's mileage with that. I think you can do something with that. And I go, okay. And then the next time we teamed at the seminar, I put together, a whole match, a presentation. I said, this is what we're going to do. And we were fortunate where we had Will Ferrara and Benchmark Bill Daly, who were 2 good guys who were willing to kind of play along with us, and they worked as the heels, and I put together the whole, they obviously helped, but I put together, the whole structure of the match where, they'd throw Cheeseburger at me, and I'd use him as a weapon, and then we'd do a double, we'd do a backpack where he's on my back and a piggyback, and then we do a Stone Cold Stunner. Just fun stuff like that, stuff that's really visual and stuff that you could put on TV, God forbid, And we ended up, after being told, 3 years before that by Jim Cornette that I wouldn't wrestle, he and I got to open up Final Battle 3 years in a row. So it was either as a team or against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was, and we did that whole match, and then we ended up doing double Stone Cold Stunner, and the place went nuts. It was really cool seeing it. But the thing was, it's just that, he ended up getting really popular, and I just wasn't as popular as him, and I was starting to become the Marty Jannetty of the team, and they didn't really want to see me that much, which was fine, because it's really okay. I just can't do what I do best at Ring of Honor. We just don't have the time. I'm a great 10, 15-minute house show wrestler as a babyface, but we don't have time to do that there.
Storyteller.
It's very limited time as far as that goes, but I've been a heel almost my whole career. I'm up to the last couple of years, so I can do a heel in 2 seconds. I can do that, no problem. So I said, well, so we started talking about it. I said, why don't we turn on him? And then, so I ended up turning on him. We teased it for a while, then I turned on him in Baltimore, which is his hottest city. And then just kept shooting little angles, and then we did the table deal in Toronto where we both went through a table, and then we did a match where he put me through a table, and then we finally did the match of Final Battle, which was 8 from the bottom, 8 from the top. It was technically the dark match. It was technically the YouTube exclusive match. It wasn't even on the pay-per-view, and it was still better. And I've been told this by WWE guys too. It was still better marketed than any match on the WWE pay-per-view. The proudest moment I had all last year was, in Ring of Honor, was when they put the chyron up of our match. The place went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a match that people in Ring of Honor wanted to see. So I was really proud of that. We built that for almost a whole year. So, and then we had the match. The match was cool. The match was really good. And as all that's going on, Tim Hughes shows up at a Ring of Honor seminar, and everybody starts saying, oh, he looks like your son. He looks like your son. So again, something starts as a rib. So now we have, this is my life in Ring of Honor, right?
Yeah.
Where you said it yourself that I'm all for guys getting opportunities. Well, it happens for the old man too. When that happens, we kind of run with it.
Right.
And Tim, we kind of did some stuff on the fly, and Tim really ran with it. Tim's excellent at like going with stuff. And we started cutting promos together, and they started putting us together as kind of a team, and now we're teaming all together. And then I just said, well, let's call him Tough Tim Hughes, and then we'll call the team Tough Guy Inc. And I call it Tough Guy Inc. That's actually a tribute to a friend of mine, Steve Bradley, who ran a promotion in New Hampshire years ago, and he had a team called Tough Guy Inc. So this is like my little thing to him. And the fact is that Tim and I are just bumbling idiots, so we're not tough at all. So it's a very ironic thing, but it's what we do, and we fill a role. It's not. We can do more with it. I'd like to do more with it, and I'm sure we will get a chance to do more with it. But right now we go and we'll have some, we'll open up and do some dark matches with some local talent and make them look like $1 million. And we're the first team to wrestle, the PBK, the Keith Lee and Shane, and made them look really dominant and did our job, So there's a role we fill where we're kind of like the jerky guys who get their comeuppance at the end. So, but it's a real fun time in Ring of Honor because I'm getting to see Tim's development, and Tim Hughes was a guy who was ready to quit wrestling because he hadn't found his groove yet, and now he's completely in his groove. So he went from a guy who doesn't really belong in Ring of Honor to a guy who totally belongs in Ring of Honor. He's not the best athlete in the crew, but he's one of the best characters in the crew.
Right.
And I think wrestling needs a little bit of everything. We need fantastic athletes, and we also need guys who can be great characters and great personalities, and Tim's really nailed that. Plus, the one thing I've noticed is with him is that when I tell him something, he usually doesn't make the same mistake twice, which is usually like a real good trait. Like you can really take that information in and then not have to worry about it anymore. So he's been a great teammate. We're going to try to do the team a little bit more outside of Ring of Honor, try to get a little bit more experience and wrestle longer matches. We've done it a few times, and it's gone well. So,
cool.
But it's it's been exciting. I've been able to hand down my knowledge to him, and it's been super fun. So
another guy over in ROH that you have a history with, Jay Briscoe.
Jay Briscoe, Mark Briscoe. I've known both of them since they were teenagers. I think I saw them in their second ever match.
Wow.
In 1999 or 2000 with in Delaware, Newport, Delaware. ECWF for Jim Kettner. And I saw these cute little kids who were 16, 17, and now to see them, be grown men with wives and babies and responsibilities, and I still get to see their mom and dad come to the shows, and I remember them from a long time ago. I'm real proud of them. I was, actually got a chance to sit down and talk with Jay. He's wrestling Jay White in an upcoming match, and I got to talk about the thought process of how they put that match together, and it's a great match, and it's just great to see these guys. They coach a lot at the same seminars I'm at for Ring of Honor, so I get to see their thought process and all that. It's cool, It's funny, I say that all the time. I said half these guys I've known since they were teenagers. But it's cool seeing everybody grow up. I don't really have any jealousy in me for that because we've taken different paths, and it's okay. It really is. And they're doing great. They run a nice business on the side. They do wrestling, and Ring of Honor mainstays, and I hope we keep them forever.
Yeah, I hope so too. Has there any guys in ROH that you haven't worked with yet that you would like to mix up with?
Well, I wouldn't mind throwing my hat in the title shot thing with Jay Lethal or Bobby Fish. Jay Lethal I've known since he was 18. Bobby Fish I haven't known since he was 18, since Bobby Fish is an old ass man like me. So. But no, but I mean, I'm not in that position for title contention. But I'd love to. I've wrestled Adam Cole a few times. He was great. I really enjoyed wrestling him. Tim and I have had a chance to wrestle the Young Bucks. They're great. I put them up with anybody. We wrestled Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. Actually, Berger and I wrestled Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. They They were tremendous. We've wrestled War Machine a couple of times. Ray Rowe I've only met recently. Good dude, strong guy. Great wrestler. And Todd Hansen started with me back when he was 16. So,
Wow.
yeah, told you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a real proud moment for me when I see them with, like, the tag belts and going to Pro Wrestling Noah and, really representing, Todd was kind of in a place where, he had a bad shoulder injury and didn't know if he was going to continue his career, and then he doubled down and really found out who he was, and I'm glad he got a chance to shine.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
All right, I'll throw out some names, past guests on this podcast. Another guy from Massachusetts, Donovan Dijak.
Donovan Dijak, I've known him, let's see, how long? I've known Dijak, he's probably since his first couple months in wrestling, and I've worked out with him a few times. Brian Fury's done an excellent job training him.
Mm-hmm.
He came into this a little older, he was a football player and all that, and I think he had to kind of get rid of that jock attitude, because in football it's all about, showing you're dominant, and in wrestling it's all about humility.
Right.
So he told me he had struggled with that in the beginning. But yeah, he's doing great for himself, real well.
Yeah.
And real proud of him, and he's a big son of a gun too. So.
Yeah, he is. He's huge. I think like 6'7", something like that.
Yeah, he's a tall drink of water. That's for sure.
All right, another name I'll throw out there, Grey Wolf.
Yeah, I know Grey Wolf. Yep, met him at Monster Factory.
Yeah.
Very cool dude. A throwback. For sure.
Yeah, he's
one of these guys who reminds me of somebody who could have, wrestled in the territories in the 80s or wrestled for WWF in like the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Could have teamed with like the Barbarian and the Warlord and been the third guy, Very knowledgeable guy, thoughtful man, smart guy. Interesting perspective on things. Very grateful for what little I've done for him. And that's what you want to see. It's when you see big, strong guys that are willing to be humble and appreciate what's come before them, it's like, well, what's your excuse, Because this guy could probably tear you in half, and he's not being that guy. He's being a good, gentle guy who's trying to help everybody and trying to be a peaceful man. So it's like, it's impressive guy. I like him a lot. I chatted with him for a while over the weekend, and it was a good conversation. So.
Awesome, yeah. All right, I got two more I'll throw out there.
Sure.
Beer City Bruiser Matt Winchester.
Beer City Bruiser Matt Winchester, I met at a Ring of Honor seminar. I had never met him before. I had never been to Milwaukee area. I guess he was one of these guys kicking around for 12, 13 years or so, maybe even a little bit longer. And he just impressed. Did really, really well. And, again, another guy who probably had every right to kind of come in with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he came in as a humble guy and said, hey, I'm here to learn, and hopefully I can bring something to the team. And he's kicked ass. I mean, he's been a nice sidekick is not a complimentary enough word for him. He's been a nice partner for Silas, Silas Young, and he's more than held up his end of the deal. Very good athlete, too, for his size. And, again, a good guy, humble man. And I've seen him offer advice to young guys, and I've seen him ask for advice too, which is good because it's when in his part of his career, it's great that he's asking for advice because that shows that he really wants to be the best he can be, which is great.
Right, yeah. And the last one I'll throw out there, and no disrespect to any of the other ROH guys I had on this podcast or you yourself. Besides you, my favorite ROH guy I've had on is Shaheem Ali.
Oh, Shaheem Ali, yep. I met him at Monster Factory, too. He was a Monster Factory guy as well. So, and, I like Shaheem a lot. Good guy. I had a real long talk with him over the weekend about some stuff and how we could help him take the next step in his career. And he's looked at me as a mentor and all that. And just another guy who's still trying to figure out who he is, but a tremendous athlete. I think we have to dress him up and make him look a little bit, more presentable. I'm not saying he doesn't look presentable now, but, TV ready and
right.
get him, revved up and ready to go and polish them up a little bit more and make them look all shiny and new for TV, and then we might have something, you know.
Yeah.
But he's good guy. I think we bonded because I found that his mom had passed, and I just, you know, I said, I don't know you very well, but I said a prayer for you and your mom. I hope that's okay. You know, I hope that doesn't offend you. And I think he was really touched by that. You know, that this guy that just met him was kind of, you know, trying to just be sympathetic towards him. And I was like, yeah, man. I said that, and I guess his mom was, you know, quite a big influence on him.
Mm-hmm.
So we bonded over that, and we've been real good friends ever since. And he's hit me up when he needed something, and you know, advice and whatnot. And I get a lot of these uncle calls, or uncle texts, or Facebook messages at 3 a.m. But since I'm almost always up, I don't mind it. So
Nice, very cool.
but, yeah, great kid. I like him a lot.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, me too. Like I said, I hope like he takes all the necessary steps and he does get on TV eventually because I think he has everything there.
Yeah, I think he has all the tools. I think he just needs a kick in the ass every once in a while, and that's what you and I are there for, to kick him in the ass.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, what does the future hold for Bob Evans?
Well, I mean, I've been calling it my greatest year ever, and I'm hoping that it's my second greatest year ever starting next year. So, hopefully I'll really get flying on that book. I think the first one is going to be kind of more like the ebook type thing, where it's, you know, kind of like maybe more of my Facebook stuff kind of put together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of in something you can read, like a guide. You know, maybe a 50 or 60 page deal, quick hit type stuff. And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts later. But yeah, the book will come out, and then I'm just going to keep seminaring. I already have stuff going into 2017. And hopefully Ring of Honor will keep me on, and that's, you know, I don't see that relationship ending anytime soon. I really enjoy it, and they seem to appreciate what I bring to the table too. And it's just bigger and better. And hopefully, you know, mom and dad and my wife and the kids are all healthy, and I'm healthy too. And you know, we just try to keep thinking positive and keep trying to be our best selves for everybody else, and everybody else tries to be their best selves for us. And that's the only way the world's going to get better, is if we just kind of improve upon ourselves and just bring that into the world. So that's why I always say I'm here to serve, because if we just worry about serving each other, then I think our own needs will get taken care of quite well. So.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're kind of winding down here. I got a couple more things for you.
Sure.
We'll have a lot more, but we're already over an hour. Maybe in the future, if I could have you on for a part 2 sometime down the road, maybe.
That sounds great. You were doggedly. You really wanted me on. You were very persistent, and persistence paid off, because I say no to a lot of people, and I'm not stuck up. It's just my time is limited.
Right.
I'm not even one of these guys that says my time is valuable. I'm just saying my time is limited to do a lot of these. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking time out. But somewhere down the road, we'll have to do a part 2, because there's
absolutely.
I want to ask you about all the WWE stuff and your training stuff, and even the Iron Week we didn't get into. But last couple of things I have for you. Making the PWI 500 for the first time, was that a big deal?
At the time, I don't think I appreciated it as much. And then I took like a bunch of. I made it early in whatever 2001, 2002, something like that, 2003, and then I was off of it for like 10 years, and I got back on it like the last couple of years. No, I mean it was cool. I think I appreciate it more now.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, I was kind of a little bit more. You know, I wasn't always the nice, happy guy I am now. I mean, I wasn't ever like miserable, but I think I took myself a little bit too seriously back in like my 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
So I didn't appreciate all that, but yeah, PWI. I grew up on that magazine, so it was, you know, it's cool. It's cool to be in that, and it's cool to be a part of that. And whatever you want to say it is a piece of wrestling history, and it is something that puts you on some sort of a, you know, you can use it. People like that, you know. People in the press don't understand what kind of a list it is, so they just kind of. They like it. You know, it's a number to put on the press release, and it's a number to use in marketing and all that. So, but yeah, I appreciate it for what it is, you know.
Do you have a copy of yours?
Oh yeah, I think I
Nice.
have copies of everything. If not, I have like digital ones or something.
All right, cool,
So,
cool. Okay, I read somewhere that Terry Taylor would be your dream opponent. Is that right?
well, Terry Taylor back in the day would be great. Terry was a huge mentor of mine. I met him about 10 years ago, and he saw my talent. Unfortunately, he just couldn't figure out a way to make it work and present it to the powers that be at TNA. But he was always a very strong mentor with me. He taught me how to be a better wrestler and a man and a better leader and all that. Um, and I've maintained contact with him. We still chat every once in a while. He's in NXT now, but he's always provided, a good reference if I need one or a good word, and he's very supportive. And when I do well, he's happy, and so and I always, again, it's one of those things where I just can't thank him enough. I mean, he's done a lot for a lot of people. I mean, and Stevie Richards and Adam Pearce and a lot of these guys, Kevin Kelly has done a lot for Kevin Kelly, and so we try to, if we're all in the same place, we take a picture and we send it to him, and he likes it, so.
Nice.
Yeah, good, great guy, and, just one of these guys, too, who will tell you, hey, I screwed up a lot, too. I made a lot of mistakes. Don't make the mistakes I made.
Right.
Don't do the stuff that I did. Avoid this pitfall, avoid that pitfall, So it's kind of cool that a guy has that much, humility or, understands who he is, where he can tell you, hey, these are the good things I did, and these are the not so good things I did.
Right.
So it's very, very impressed, and it impressed upon me that I needed to step up my game as a coach and a mentor, and I have. And a lot of it is influenced by Terry. So
Cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, Bob, I want to thank you again for being on, and like I said, hopefully we could do a part 2 sometime.
All right, sure, I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make that work.
Yeah, and do you want to throw out your social media stuff?
Sure. Facebook. Follow me on Facebook because I'm at the limit, but you can follow me and get all my stuff. And then at Brutal Bob Evans on Twitter. I don't put as much stuff on there because I just don't want people yelling at me on Twitter where I can't erase it.
Yeah.
Because I really don't try to get into fights all the time.
Well, they have that mute button now. You can mute them instead of.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I think the world's still here. I think the world still sees it though too, right? So I don't know. I haven't quite figured out. I use Twitter and I'm okay at it, but it's not. I like Facebook because it's a longer form.
Right. Right.
And then I have registered hangwithbob.com. I still haven't done anything with it, but I have it. So hopefully maybe if somebody listens to this in the future, there'll be something on there. And then there's a Hangs with Bob Seminars Facebook page, and there's a Bob's Wrestling and Toys Facebook page because I have an eBay store that sells all kinds of fun stuff for you to look at. So
Nice.
Yeah, I got my hand in everything.
Sounds good.
Busy man.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I will get together sometime down the road and link each other's schedules up and make it happen again.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that was a conversation with ROH's Brutal Bob Evans, and a lot of knowledge in there, dropping some knowledge. A little hiccup in the middle, audio-wise, and that thing happened. It's expected, whatever. It's not a big deal. I mean, a little static here and there. You could deal with it. It's not that big of a deal, like I said. So you guys will definitely enjoy that one, and I will get out of here on my plugs. ECWF Podcast on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Electric City Wrestling Fans. And iTunes, Electric City Wrestling Fans. Subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitter, and like on Facebook. Peace.